4.
Yes, it's our day 4. It's our day 4.
Yeah.
So it's no, it's. So we've covered
We
what
talked
to an MFA community. We've covered
expectations and change.
We've covered expectations. We've covered a lot of different things, I guess. But I guess personal practice. That's sort of an interesting topic.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, like how has your personal practice changed from when you arrived? Like, has your MFA experience changed your personal practice?
I think yes and no. I mean, it's changed it somewhat, and then in other ways they've definitely stayed very consistent. Um, where I was before I came for my MFA, I had a shared studio, um, and I worked mostly in like evenings, weekends, when no one else was there, and and I think that a lot of my work was very strongly image based. Um, I did printmaking and I did a lot of research, but more topical research than like conceptual research, I think. Um, and so moving here to Michigan and having a private studio and all the time in the world, not having to work for money at at the moment, uh, I think it's changed it quite a bit. Um, I guess what's different now? I approach things differently. I think just because I can take the chance and I can take the time to really focus. Um, and I don't think of making a product anymore. I think more because before I was doing bookbinding and printmaking and book arts. So I was working towards this like one type of object always like how can I reinterpret the form of the book and how can I better communicate what I'm talking about in this form and and then I would always come out with an edition so I would have 20 copies that I could then distribute and
I think
now
it's a
go ahead.
Sorry.
Well, now I don't have that. I work more towards an idea and it's not really I don't know, I just don't audition anymore. Maybe that's the main difference.
But you do performance now, don't you?
I do performance now, yeah. I did a little bit of performance in the past, but I think that's a different way of thinking about distribution for me. In printmaking, you're producing, an object, a page, an image, words that you're distributing, and with performance and video, you're kind of doing the same thing. With performance, you're communicating, with a group of people, your audience, like in a one-on-one way, but everyone's watching. Same with the video, where you're producing this one-on-one communication that then can be. I think video is very similar to book.
I actually was just thinking that. I was just thinking how similar, because it is communicating some sort of idea. It is communicating. Because, I mean, if that's how you interpret a book, because there's so many ways of interpreting what a book is.
Right.
But do you think it's important to have a studio, actually? That's actually a very interesting question.
Oh, well, that's an interesting question for you. But for me, yes, I need a studio. I need a space separate from my living space to work. And I spend a lot of time in my studio. You probably have noticed in our discussions.
Yeah, I have. No, because there's a lot of different MFA programs where people are scattered. They're all over the world, or they're all over the U.S., and they only meet maybe once a year to show what they have done.
Right.
And the classroom is basically a virtual one. It's no different than the conversation that we're having right now. And they may never meet in real time, but they all work towards an MFA.
Right.
And it just seems like it's like everything has become so so web-based in so many ways. You know, Skype. It's almost like this new way of communicating, and it's it's curious. You know, like I just wonder. You know, like for us, community is very important, but for others, there may be no community, and they work towards this paper. I don't know. Like I don't know what if it is a better MFA or if it's not a better MFA. If the MFA is even important, you know, like as we were talking about that, you know, before. But you know, like it's just you know, you've got 8 people enrolled in this so-called MFA program, and you've got a director who Skypes them and talks to them, and then they might all meet for a so-called critique once a year. They work on their work separately. They never see each other. They never meet. They come in for a critique, and it's only critiqued by, or even if the critique is valid, but it's only reviewed by the director. And like I've never experienced something like that, but I think one of the things that has changed my practice is just dealing with my peers actually,
Oh yeah.
and just interacting with them. And but yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, for me, I've watched my practice change because I used to make objects into not making objects anymore. So it's actually it's sort of and I like the freedom of not having a studio. Like I thought I wanted a studio, but in reality, I think I just work in cafes and you know, like I take my camera or I take my video and it's become so nomadic. So I don't know. It's sort of it's interesting, this nomadic practice.
And
So.
so the way that you've changed is you've gone from this object to more um, writing and video, and so you don't need a studio per se for that. But I was wondering, um, and you said the thing that really changed your practice was this interaction with your peers in your program. So
Yeah, it is. I think you know what's interesting is that I think that everybody brings something different. Everybody has a very different way of understanding your work or way of interpreting it.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually really interesting. You know, just the way things are exchanged. You know, like because we, you know, like was the construct of an identity, was the construct of who we are. I mean, if you really want to think about it, and I think it's always people with different identities who come together. And I mean, I could present one work and people would have 50 different readings of it, and which is sort of interesting actually. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's I learn and I decide what I want to keep and what I want to leave behind, because I don't always agree with my peers, which is also important as well. You know, like we talk about learning, but learning also means being able to discriminate as well. So.
Definitely.